Hey everyone, Ian from Bilge here. Wanted to share with you a deep dive into some of my favorite features of the Bilge specifically our features around flooding and sinking, and also build system health. I'm going to go through both of those. They're two separate tabs in the app, but their functionality is tightly coupled with each other. So we'll cover both of those in this video. And basically what this does is it really gives you peace of mind that your boat doesn't have a leak or is sinking, and we have kind of a stepwise level of alerts of kind of minor things that you might want to take care of before there's a big accident, all the way up to, hey, your boat's sinking, you got to go do something right now. So the way the Bilge works with this is we'll start with the kind of most mundane alerts that we have. So every day this computer here is going to start your bilge pump and do a health test while the bilge is dry. And it measures a lot of different things: voltage drop, current draw, but it also knows what your pump typically draws. And so if the pump fails to turn on, it's going to alert you that your bilge pump is broken. This is really nice because you're not finding out that your bilge pump is broken because you're taking on water. Nothing's wrong with your boat right now, but you just need to fix your bilge pump before the next rainstorm or leak. In addition to that, we even test when pumps are about to fail. So if we see a low current draw, there may be corrosion in your wires or a fault to ground, and that gives you an opportunity to look into that. In addition, if your pump's drawing more current than it normally does, it may be starting to seize, clog, things like that. Example of that is my uncle on his flats boat was throwing the tails of his fishing knots on the ground. He actually had a scupper that went into his bilge. So he had a pump that was sucking up all those tails, and it actually was still ejecting water, so it was a little deceiving to him, but it was running at about 4 times the amount of resistance that it normally did. So we were able to alert him of that. He was able to fix it, pull all the line out, and now he has a functioning pump. Next up, so those are all kind of the proactive pieces there. The next up is when things start to go wrong. So the first alert that you'll hear is if your float switch, if we see that run more than kind of a set limit for a day, say I don't want my bilge pump to run more than twice a day, if I see it run 3 times, I'll get an alert that, hey, I kind of have this slow leak. It's a wet bilge, right? The next step up of concern is if we see the float switch go off more than twice in 5 minutes. That means you have a leak. The system's keeping up with it, but you're going to want to address it pretty quick. The third piece is if your float is up for more than 5 minutes. Now, this could be a pretty significant leak that your pump is keeping up with because the high water sensor hasn't gone off yet. Or sometimes it also just be your float switch gets stuck up or something gets jammed underneath it. So it may be kind of a false alert, but something that's going to drain your battery and fry your pump. After that, we start to get into the high water sensor here. So the first one is if, say, your float switch is broken. So water's rising in your bilge, your float is going up, but it's not kicking on the pump. Eventually the water's going to get to this high water sensor. It's going to push this up, and it's also going to purge all the water. It's going to text you that it's purging all the water, but it's also going to let you know that, hey, we didn't see the float. We'll purge the water and hold the line, but you're going to want to fix that primary switch once you get done with the leak. And then the most significant is when we see a working float switch, but this high water sensor is still going off. That means water is coming into your boat at a rapid rate. Your bilge system is functioning, but it's not keeping up. And this is the scariest of them, but at least you know about it and you have time to run down to your boat or have someone check on your boat and hopefully mitigate the disaster. So we'll go into the bilge after this, kind of show you that all in action. But again, it's one of my favorite features of the Bilge. Everyone worries about their boat when they're not there. A lot of boats sink in slips. I think about 70% of all sinking accidents occur in the slip. And that's typically because rainwater filling up the bilge or potentially a storm, things like that. But a lot of it can be avoided with a functioning bilge system. So Bilge helps make sure that you're ready before that even happens. Hey everyone, so we're here in the bilge. We have the Bilge installed at the water line or above to promote cell signal. You can see it's pulsing blue, which means it's connected properly, it's powered, it has cell service. The high water sensor It's mounted about 3 to 9 inches above your existing pump, float, or automatic pump. Once it's installed, you're going to get a series of tests and alerts to make sure your boat's not sinking and that your bilge is functioning properly. So, as we said at the beginning of the video, this device right here is going to turn on your pump every day. Run it for about 10 seconds, do a health test. It's going to test the voltage drop, current draw, and so the day your pump fails or starts to fail, you're getting an alert when your boat's not taking on water. It's not in crisis, it's just this daily health test, and you'll have time to fix that pump so that it's functioning the time you need it, like a rainstorm, leak, or other situations where you need to pump out water from your bilge. In addition to that proactive test, if your float, which is down there, which is what turns on your pump if there's water in the bilge, if that runs more than your daily threshold, you get an alert about a slow leak. If it goes off more than twice in 5 minutes, you have a moderate leak. I'll let you know about that. So your pump's keeping up with it, but it keeps going on at a pretty rapid rate. The next escalation will be if the float is up for more than 5 minutes. Now that can be because of a major leak, pump's keeping up with it because the high water sensor hasn't gone off yet, or it could be that your float is stuck up, which will burn out the pump and also drain your batteries. So you get an alert about that. The next series of alerts is where it starts to get concerning. So the way we know your float switch is broken is, say water is filling your bilge and we don't see a signal from that float switch, and all of a sudden the high water sensor goes off, we know that your float's not working. So the system will purge the water as a backup. Think of it as kind of a secondary switch down there. Pump all the water out, text message you that it's currently doing that, you have a leak, and you also have a broken float switch. Fix that once you get the leak under control. The last one is the most concerning one, and that is when we see the float turning on the pump, but the high water sensor is also going off. You'll hear that the Bilge Buddy has a slight delay, so you don't do it when you're motoring, but the Bilge Buddy's now turned on the pump because of the high water sensor going off. And so that's letting you know that your system's functioning properly, but it's not keeping up with the leak. So you got a pretty significant leak. Someone needs to get there ASAP. The last piece and the last point of failure in bilges is voltage. So because this wire right here, one of these two gray wires, is live, it's connected directly to the battery, we're monitoring the voltage. So the Bilge Buddy is always making sure that you have enough voltage to run this pump should water get into the bilge and your emergency system needs to kick on. So again, we cover all 3 points of failure. Daily bilge test to proactively identify failed pumps, a backup high water sensor, float switch in case your float fails, and then you also get high water alerts with that should the system not be able to keep up. And the last piece is voltage, which can run your pumps. With all those bases covered, you've greatly increased your potential of keeping your boat afloat and not having one of those sinking and slip events, which can cost you a lot of money, take you off the water, and also is quite embarrassing. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.